Hi everyone, welcome back to another anatomy video. In today's video, we are going to be looking into the integumentary system, which is basically kind of just like your skin, hair, nails. We're mostly going to be looking at the skin and the three main sections, so the epidermis, dermis, and hypodermis, and all of the different structures that are within those layers. So please like and subscribe for more content. And now let's get into the video. So over here is going to show kind of just like a layer of the skin that would be on the palms of your hands or the soles of your feet. So it is classified as thick skin. So this is a model of thick skin. Now, first we're going to go over the dermis. So or excuse me, the epidermis first. So the epidermis is basically this whole portion over here. This is your epidermis. And the epidermis has 5 distinct layers within it. First, you have your stratum corneum, which is going to be this very thick tan layer over here. So that over there is your stratum corneum. As such, stratum corneum is made up of stratified squamous epithelium. So stratified squamous epithelium. If you guys have watched my histology video, then you kind of know what that type of tissue is going to look like at a microscopic level. Next, we have the stratum lucidum, which is going to be this white or baby pink layer over here. So just that layer. That is, again, stratum lucidum. Stratum lucidum is only in thick skin. And an example of that would be like the soles of your feet or the palms of your hands. That's, there we go. Next is going to be your stratum granulosum. The stratum granulosum in this diagram is going to be this darker purple layer, not the whole purple, but just the beginning dark purple portion. So you can kind of see that it ends over here where it then transitions into a lighter purple. So all of that purple layer. And again, that is your stratum granulosum. There isn't anything special that you really have to know for this layer of skin other than its name. Next, we have your stratum spinosum, which is going to be the light purple portion. So all of this stuff that's in the middle and then it goes down. All of that is the stratum spinosum. And then finally, you have your basal or basement membrane. You are going to see this like purple border that is a different color than the other two purples shown. So over here where it kind of like becomes these ridges, all of this is going to be your basal/basement membrane. Oops, that was a very long line. Let's change that up, make it shorter. There we go. So you can say either or, basal or basement. So that is everything that is going to be in your epidermis as for layers. So, a good way to remember the mnemonic of this is come, let's get sunburned. So, the epidermis, the mnemonic is come, let's get sunburned. It's a very silly mnemonic because no one wants to get sunburned, but I feel like it does really help because the C stands for the stratum corneum, L stands for lucidum, G stands for granulosum, S spinosum, and then B the basement membrane. One last thing that is good to keep in mind is that you have epidermal ridges. Epidermal ridges is basically just this wave over here. So it's kind of just like showing the texture of the skin. So the actual wave itself is called epidermal ridges. All right, moving on, we are going to then look into your dermis. The dermis is this thick pink layer over here, right over there. And I like to showcase the dermis on a larger model just so that you guys can see all of the different factors that feed into it. So over here is a larger skin model. You can see that you have thick skin in this last little section. So from this black line all the way to the right where the model ends, this is all considered to be thick skin. While over here, this middle section, the middle section could be considered to be like your armpits or groin region because you have the apocrine and eccrine sweat glands, which I will get more into following this. And that is basically going to be like your smelly sweat. So if you think of like where smelly odor comes from, it can come from your armpits, as one example. And then finally, this last segment from this black line to the left end of the model, that would be considered to be the skin that is in your scalp. So, like your hair and everything like that. All right, so now, as I said, we're going to move into the dermis. So, the dermis in itself has two main layers. The first of which is the papillary layer. So, the papillary layer is going to be basically all of this stuff over here. And you can tell that you're no longer in the papillary layer once these kinds of like red and blue dots start to diffuse. So you can see that they're still over here, but there's a lot less of them than there is at the top. So once again, papillary layer of the dermis. Within the papillary layer, you have your dermal papillae. The dermal papillae are going to be these bumps over here. So the actual bump is a dermal papillae. Dermal papillae equals actual bump. And now, when you put all of those bumps together, you are going to have dermal ridges. So I'll leave a little side note over here. Put all the dermal papillae together equals dermal ridges. All right. Now, the next part of what is within your papillary layer, you have Meissner's corpuscles. If you look at the dermal papillae, you will see these kinds of like circles over here, or ovals, if you will. These ovals are considered to be Meissner's corpuscles. And for the sake of this class, you don't need to know like what they do, you kind of just need to know where they are. All right, and then finally, the very last thing about the papillary layer is going to be your capillary loops. Capillary loops is going to be all of these little like red and blue circles that you see over here. So like all of these capillary loops. All right, that is everything for the papillary layer. Next, you have your reticular layer. So, the reticular layer is going to be the remainder of the dermis, excluding the hypodermis. So, all of that is your reticular layer. Now, zooming into the reticular layer, you have your eccrine sweat glands, which are these white guys. There's also one here, and one over here at the very end. The eccrine sweat glands are going to be in charge of producing that kind of like watery, salty type of sweat. So, watery plus salty sweat. It also doesn't have an odor. So there's no odor. Now, in contrast to that, you have your apocrine glands, which is going to be this big yellow gland over here in the middle. So I'll put it over there. So the apocrine sweat glands are in charge of that waxy, fatty type of sweat that you get under your armpits. So waxy plus fatty sweat, and this one does smell. So it does produce an odor. All right, moving on. Now we're going to take a look at kind of like your hair and everything in that department. So the part that is above the skin line. So this over here is your skin line. Everything that is above is going to be considered a hair follicle. So that little projection right over there is a hair follicle. Now, going down, you're going to have your hair root. Hair root is kind of like this bud area over here. Because that is the beginning of the hair. Now, connected to the hair, you have your sebaceous glands. These grape bundles over here, kind of like in purple, these are going to be your sebaceous glands, and they secrete oil or sebum. And these ones are basically what is going to kind of like condition your hair, and it's going to keep the hair oily. So if you have like really dry hair, then your sebaceous glands might excrete more oil in order to compensate for the dryness. Finally, you have the arrector pili muscle, which is this whole muscle that is connected to the hair root. The rector pili muscle is going to contract and make the hair stand up vertically on the top of your skin. So when it contracts, the hair is no longer going to be slanted. As you see, it's going to stand up straight. And that is what can cause like goosebumps, for example. All right. And now the very last part is your hypodermis. Hypodermis is going to be this last yellow layer where you see a lot of adipose tissue. So over here, hypodermis, adipose tissue. Now, the hypodermis is really nice because you only need to know one main thing in this layer, and that is your Pacinian corpuscles. The Pacinian corpuscle is going to be this little guy over here. Kind of looks a little bit like an onion with all of its different layers. All right. And it is only found in like thick skin areas. As you can see, it's only in the thick skin, it's not in the hair or armpit region. So, Pacinian corpuscle. All right, and that is everything for this hair model and diagram. I hope you guys found it helpful and informational. I hope the mnemonic helped with "Come, let's get sunburned" for the 5 different layers of the epidermis. And please, again, like and subscribe. Leave any questions, comments, concerns in the comment section. I also am an anatomy tutor, so if you would like some extra help, then please comment and I will get back to you guys as soon as possible. Thank you so much and have a great day. Goodbye.